This video is made possible by the following providers of PC hardware. Make sure to check out what they have to offer in the description below. How would you like that this site here, duelingbook.com, has a brand new style of code that enables it to play without Flash, which was ceased on January the 20th. This is awesome. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna play just your good old regular standard issue match duels. I'm gonna host a duel instead because nobody's accepting my challenges. This site actually appears to be more smoother. Shoutouts to Ryan, the leader of Dueling Book. I'd like to give a shout out once again to Render Forest for the intro. Although it is a low quality intro, I do apologize about that, ladies and gentlemen. It's just okay, let's try, here we go. I want you guys to see something here. I have built some more custom cards, right? Watch this, limit, nope. Wait a minute, card. What is that, more options? My custom cards. Here we go. I built a counter trap card called Anti-Degeneracy. Your opponent must use custom cards of a new archetype launched by Konami and cannot use cards made by themselves. This card is activated at the paid. Beg your pardon, sorry. This card is activated depending on where it is, on where its position is. Send this card from the deck. Send this card to the graveyard from the main deck or hand. And I've got a card that you guys may have seen. Has a relatively short monster effect, but it's still quite broken. Apically Fort Fortress. I don't know how to blend the sky. I make cards that make sense. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how to blend sky base, there we go, and towers together to make a single image. But anyway, the pendulum effect of this monster is you cannot special summon monsters except Clee monsters. This effect cannot be negated. So the same effect as all other Clees. But this card has no images. If this card is destroyed while it was in a main monster zone, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. If this card was destroyed while in a pendulum zone, you can destroy all cards in the field except Clee cards. You can only use each pendulum effect of Apically Fort Fortress once per turn. And then its monster effect requires 3 Clee tributes to normal summon. Cannot be normal set. The normal summon of this card cannot be negated. Unaffected by other cards' effects. When this card attacks or is attacked, negate the effects of the opponent's monster involved, including the graveyard. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can activate one laser clip field spell from your deck. You can only use each monster effect of this card once per turn. Next is Sky Fortress, which is a combination of towers and skybase again, but Fortress is a little bit more weaker, if you will, in its effect. Basically, it lets you activate a field spell from the deck if it destroys something, and it negates a monster effect. That's about it. Must be special summoned from your hand by sending 1 Apocryph or Towers and Skybase you control to the graveyard. This card's special summon cannot be negated. This card's attack and defense become the combined original attack and defense of the monster sent to the graveyard for its summon. This card is unaffected and cannot be targeted by a spell trap or monster effects. All monsters on the field lose 500 attack and defense. Once per turn you contribute 1 other Clifford monster. I should really just change that to clear. Target 1 monster your opponent controls and take control of it, and if you do, its effects are negated. Once per turn you can make your opponent send 2 monsters they control or in their hand to the graveyard. If this card is destroyed, you can add 2 clear monsters from your graveyard to your hand. And those 2 clear monsters would obviously be Skybase and Towers. Then there's X. Same pendulum summon, special summon effect. I'm going to adjust these effects. All monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack. If this card is destroyed while in your pendulum zone, you can special summon this card. If this card is special summoned, you can add 1 Clifford monster from your deck to your hand, or Clee monster. If this card is destroyed while it was in a monster zone, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. So basically, back and forth, this card is broken. Oh wow, I like this card. And then we have here Cathy the Annoying Cat. When your opponent activates the effect of Toby the Annoying Dog or Toby the Annoying Dog number 2, I'll just say the Annoying Dog or Toby the Annoying Dog number 2, negate the effect, and if you do, banish all copies of those monsters from your opponent's extra deck. The effect of this card cannot be negated. This card can be activated from the main deck. And then there's Curse Seal the Forbidden Trap. This card is like the Curse Seal the Forbidden Spell of the Trap World. Activate only when your opponent activates a trap card. Discard 1 trap card. Negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. Your opponent cannot activate cards with the same name for the rest of the duel. Just like Curse Seal the Forbidden Spell. I love this card. Dice Jar number 2. This card is hilariously broken. Flip. Both players roll a 6-sided die. The player with the lowest result takes damage equal to their opponent's roll times 1000. Also, if the winner rolled a 6, flip this card into face down defense position. If both players' rolls are the same, both players roll again. Execution. Activate only if you have no cards in your spell and trap zones and if you control no monsters. Activate 2 Clee Pendulum monsters from your deck to your pendulum zones, but destroy them during the end phase, and if you do, banish them. Then after your third end phase after this card was activated, return them to your hand. You can activate this card from your hand by paying 800 life points. Basically it grabs the cards you need, which is hilariously awesome. Next we have Monster of the Forbidden Curse. When your opponent summons a monster, you can discard this card, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. Your opponent cannot use any more cards with those names for the rest of the duel. This card's effect activation cannot be negated. This effect activation is treated as a counter trap card effect. So basically you have a counter trap in your hand that you can just discard. Then there's number 0x1, Clifford Defense Tower. There we go. 2 level 4 clay monsters. Cannot attack. During each of your standby phases, detach 1 exceed material from this card or destroy it. Once per turn, quick effect, you can make all clay monsters you control unaffected by your opponent's cards effects until the end of your next standby phase. If this card is destroyed by your opponent's card effect then sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 level 3 or higher clay monster in your graveyard, special summon that target ignoring its summoning conditions. Then there's the famous Orichalcos Deuteros that Dots used during the anime. I love this card. God damn it. God damn it. There we go. Now, I've turned the most broken part of this card into a fair effect. Activate only by sending 1 face up the Seal of Orichalcos you control to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 Orichalcos field spell per turn. While face up on the field, this card's name is also treated as the Seal of Orichalcos. This card gains the effects of the Seal of Orichalcos. Once per turn during your main phase, you can activate this effect. Gain 500 life points for each monster you control. If your opponent attacks your life points directly, you contribute 1 monster, target the attacking monster, negate the attack. So basically, if your opponent has a monster such as... Oh, dang. Well, if your opponent is using Ghost Tricks, right, because they can attack directly and deliver full damage to you, but you only do half the damage, which is just plain stupid, just activate this card. You can only activate Orichalcos Deuteros once per duel. And then there's Tritos. Activate only by sending 1 face up Orichalcos Deuteros you control to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 Orichalcos field spell per turn. Obviously, you have to wait a turn first. While face up on the field, this card's name is treated as the Seal of Orichalcos. Obviously, the same effect as the Seal of Orichalcos Deuteros. This card gains the effects of the Seal of Orichalcos and Orichalcos Deuteros. If a monster you control would be affected by the effect of an opponent's spell or trap card effect, you can negate the effect, and if you do, destroy that card. Probably the least strongest out of the 2 cards. Clifford Bios. Activate only during the draw phase and if you drew a clay monster at the start of the duel. Your opponent cannot respond to the activation of these effects and must apply these effects. If your opponent's monster or if a spell or trap card or effect is activated, it becomes this effect. Trap card. Both players draw 1 card. Spell card. Darkworld Dealings. Both players draw, then discard 1 card. Monster. Send 1 monster from your hand to the graveyard. These effects last until the 3rd end phase after this card's activation. And this card is banished at that time. You can only activate Clifford Bios once per duel. Because they're all machines, they've got to have some sort of computer they're powered by, right? Hence Clifford Genius. Clifford Central System. Activate from the main deck, and only during the draw phase if you draw a clay monster. Send this card, and 1 Clifford Bios from your deck to the graveyard. Apply Clifford Bios effect. Banish this card after the 3rd end phase after this effect's activation. You can only activate the effect of Clifford Central System once per duel. Basically, it sends Bios if Bios becomes... Well, if Bios somehow gets negated. Because custom cards for the win. Clifford Computing. If you control no other Clee card except Clifford Computing, you can activate this card from your hand. So basically, if you have another Clifford Computing, you can just drop this card down. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to Clee cards' effect activations. I should say to a Clee card or cards. I'll fix these effects up eventually. If this card is sent from the field to your graveyard by your opponent's card or effect, you can add one Clee spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. Basically, it becomes an Altergeist protocol of the Clee forts. Clifford Delta Wing, sorry, has 2,800 attack and 1,000 defense, just like all the Monarchs and the rest of the Clee monsters that are level 7 or more, except Skybase and Towers, which are both level 9 and 10. Okay, let's get on with it. Must be fusion summoned by tributing the above cards you control. When this card is special summoned, look at your opponent's hand, then shuffle one card in your opponent's hand into the deck. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, shuffle the destroyed monster into the deck instead of sending it to the graveyard. If this card is destroyed by your opponent's card or effect, you can special summon a Clee monster from your graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. I like to have a little bit of diversity in my cards. Clifford Fortification. Pay 800 life points and discard one card. Add one Ape Clifford monster from your deck to your hand. Basically, if you want to add something, just use this card. Doink. Clifford Recycler. When this card is normal or special summon, you can target one Clee monster in your graveyard, shuffle into the deck. If this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target a Clee monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Clifford Recycler once per turn and only once that turn. Basically, it's a Shadow Mist for Clee monsters, except it's graveyard oriented. And then there's Ape Clifford, and then there's Clifford Super Fortress. 3+ Clee monsters. League -4. When this card is link summoned, target 2 Clee Pendulum monsters face up in your extra deck. Place them in your pendulum zones, if possible. If not, add them to your hand. If any, is what I'll say there. When this card attacks, negate all cards and effects on the field on your opponent's side of the field. I'll just say on your opponent's field. At the end of the battle phase, if this card attacked or was attacked and was not destroyed, you can target one Clee spell or trap card in your graveyard. Set it face down on your field. If 3 monsters are special summoned to your zones this card points to, target 2 monsters your opponent controls, their choice. Destroy them. And if you do, this card's attack becomes doubled until the end phase. So, it becomes 9,000 attack! It's an I win button. I'm already loving this effect. Your opponent cannot respond to this card's effects activations and or this card's summon. So, this card just got awfully broken all of a sudden. I love broken cards. They're awesome. Clee Rebuild. Activate only if an Ape Clifford monster is destroyed by battle by card effect. Target one of those monsters, special summon that target, ignoring its summoning conditions, and if you do, target one other Clifford monster that was destroyed, shuffle into the deck. Only one of these can be activated per turn. Self-banishing life-saving shield. When your opponent activates a card... This is another I win button against people that use cards that just simply say I win, that's it. When your opponent activates a card or effect that reduces or makes your life points become 0, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card and all copies of that card in your opponent's hand or deck, but banish them instead of sending them to the graveyard. Your opponent cannot activate any more cards or effects with that name for the remainder of this duel. I'll say name or similar effect. For the remainder of this duel. This card can be activated from either the main deck, graveyard, hand, and or if this card is removed from play, either face up or face down. The activation and effects of this card cannot be negated. Basically it means... Really? You're gonna play that shit against me? Excuse my French. I don't think so somehow, mate. Whack! The Great Leviathan. God of the Seas. This card is always treated as an Orichalcos card, which is insane. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned while you have a face-up the Seal of Orichalcos on the field, or if a face-up Orichalcos Shinrus is destroyed. The special summon of this card cannot be negated. This card is unaffected by the effect of your opponent's spell/trap cards and your opponent's monster or monsters effects. If you do not control or face up the Seal of Orichalcos, destroy this card. While this card is on the field, it cannot be destroyed by a battle. This card gains attack equal to the amount of cards you control times 2,000. If this card is destroyed, you can target up to 2 Orichalcos cards in your graveyard. Add the first target to your hand, and if you do, shuffle the second target into the deck. Holy Lord. And as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to end this video with a bit of a tutorial. How do you create a custom card like this? I'm glad you asked. Let's go to custom cards. I'm gonna call this... it's gonna be a spell card, obviously. I win button negated. My bad. Didn't spell that correctly. If your opponent activates a card that has the text in its description, you win the duel. I'm going to semicolon that actually. As a condition, you win the duel. Or a similar effect. You win the duel. Instead of losing. No, instead of your opponent. Category spell. There we go. Upload myself only. Type as blank. Oops. Normal spell. There we go. And that's how you make a custom card, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to use an image if you don't want to, if you can't find one applicable, but you know, I could just use the self-destruct button image here, but I'm not going to use a card image of another card that was negated, if you will. But that was my readout of my custom cards, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think below. And if you did, don't forget to slap that like button, comment, and share this around with your friends and family. Anyway guys, you can come check me out by PayPal. and my merch store if you're interested in buying some old merch of mine that I have not expired. I can't afford a designer, that's why I'm not getting a designer out. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Come check me out in the link in the description below for my Discord. I have an entire playlist dedicated to the Yu-Gi-Oh game. Be sure to check that out as well. I'll leave a link in the description below and a card up here for you guys to watch on your phone screens and of course your tablet or Mac or Windows machines as well. And of course, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.